The morning sun filtered through the massive windows of the Good Morning America studio in New York City, casting a golden glow over the set where millions tuned in daily for their dose of news, entertainment, and celebrity interviews. On this particular day, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation as legendary actor Denzel Washington was scheduled to appear, promoting his latest film that had already garnered Oscar buzz. Michael Strahan, the affable former NFL star turned co-host, sat poised with his trademark smile, ready to dive into what was expected to be a light-hearted conversation. But as the cameras rolled and the live broadcast began, subtle tensions simmered beneath the surface. Denzel, known for his intense performances in films like Training Day and The Equalizer, entered the stage with his signature charisma, shaking hands with the hosts and waving to the cheering audience. Strahan started off smoothly, asking about Denzel's preparation for his role, the challenges of portraying complex characters, and his thoughts on the evolving landscape of Hollywood. Denzel responded thoughtfully, sharing anecdotes from his decades-long career, emphasizing the importance of authenticity and hard work in an industry often criticized for its superficiality. However, as the interview progressed, Strahan veered into more personal territory, probing about Denzel's recent comments on social issues, including racial inequality and the role of celebrities in activism. Denzel, ever the eloquent speaker, elaborated on his views, drawing from his own experiences growing up in Mount Vernon and the barriers he overcame. But Strahan, perhaps aiming for a provocative angle to boost ratings, pressed harder, questioning whether Denzel's outspoken nature had cost him roles or alienated fans. The audience sensed a shift, murmurs rippling through the crowd as Denzel's expression hardened slightly. He countered firmly, explaining that truth-telling was more important than popularity, citing historical figures like Malcolm X, whom he portrayed on screen. Strahan, not backing down, referenced a controversial tweet Denzel had made about industry gatekeepers, suggesting it might be seen as divisive. Denzel leaned forward, his voice steady but laced with frustration, reminding Strahan that as a black man in America, silence wasn't an option. The exchange grew sharper, with Strahan interjecting about the need for unity, while Denzel argued that true unity required acknowledging uncomfortable realities. The co-hosts, Robin Roberts and George Stephanopoulos, exchanged uneasy glances, trying to steer the conversation back to lighter topics like Denzel's family life or upcoming projects. Yet, the momentum had shifted, and what started as a standard promotional spot was turning into a raw, unfiltered debate. Viewers at home watched transfixed, social media already buzzing with clips being shared in real time. Denzel's passion was palpable, his words resonating with those who admired his integrity, but Strahan's persistence seemed to irk him, as if the host was more interested in sensationalism than genuine dialogue. By the end of this segment, the air was thick with unspoken conflict, setting the stage for what would become an unforgettable moment in morning television history. As the commercial break ended and the show resumed, Michael Strahan attempted to reset the tone, complimenting Denzel on his illustrious career and shifting to questions about his directorial ventures, like Fences and A Journal for Jordan. Denzel nodded appreciatively, delving into the creative process and the joy of mentoring younger actors. But Strahan, sensing an opportunity for deeper insight, circled back to the earlier discussion on social issues, asking pointedly about Denzel's views on cancel culture and how it affected veterans like himself in the industry. Denzel paused, his eyes narrowing as he processed the question, then launched into a passionate response about the double standards faced by black artists compared to their white counterparts. He recounted instances where his peers had been blacklisted for less, emphasizing that speaking out wasn't about division but about justice. Strahan countered by sharing his own experiences as a black athlete transitioning to media, suggesting that progress had been made and that focusing on positives could bridge gaps. This back and forth intensified, with Denzel's voice rising slightly as he challenged Strahan's optimism, pointing out systemic issues that persisted despite individual successes. The audience applauded sporadically, some nodding in agreement with Denzel, others shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Robin Roberts interjected with a joke to lighten the mood, but it fell flat as the two men locked eyes, the debate turning personal. Strahan asked if Denzel felt Hollywood was inherently racist, prompting a direct retort from the actor about tokenism and the lack of real representation behind the cameras. Denzel illustrated his point with stories from his early days, struggling for roles that weren't stereotypes, and how he had to fight for every accolade. Strahan, defending the industry that had embraced him, argued that change was happening, citing diverse casts in recent blockbusters. But Denzel wasn't convinced, accusing the media, including shows like GMA, of perpetuating narratives that downplayed ongoing struggles for ratings. The exchange grew heated, with gestures becoming more animated, Denzel pointing emphatically, Strahan leaning back defensively. George Stephanopoulos tried to mediate, suggesting they agree to disagree, but the damage was done. The interview had devolved into a clash of perspectives. Viewers could feel the authenticity, rare in polished morning TV, but also the discomfort as professional courtesy frayed. Social media exploded with hashtags like #Denzel vs Strahan, fans dividing into camps supporting each man's viewpoint. Denzel's frustration mounted as Strahan pressed on a sensitive topic, rumors about Denzel's potential retirement and whether activism was pushing him out. Denzel dismissed it sharply, stating his commitment was unwavering, but the implication stung, as if his legacy was being questioned. By now, the studio tension was palpable, whispers among the crew hinting at an impending breaking point. The confrontation reached a boiling point when Michael Strahan delved into Denzel Washington's philanthropic efforts, specifically his work with inner-city youth programs, but framed it in a way that suggested it was a PR move rather than genuine passion. Denzel, visibly irritated, corrected him sternly, detailing the personal motivations rooted in his own upbringing and the mentors who shaped him. He spoke at length about the Boys Girls Clubs and how giving back wasn't optional but essential for those who've climbed the ladder. Strahan, perhaps misreading the room, joked about Denzel's tough love approach, comparing it to his football coaching days, but the humor landed poorly, eliciting a sharp rebuke from Denzel about not trivializing serious matters. The audience gasped as Denzel's tone sharpened, accusing Strahan of oversimplifying complex issues for sound bites. Strahan defended himself, asserting his intent was to highlight positive impacts, but Denzel countered that true journalism required depth, not superficial banter. The back and forth escalated, with Denzel referencing historical contexts like the civil rights movement and how media often distorted black voices. Strahan, feeling attacked, pushed back on being labeled as part of the problem, sharing his own advocacy work. Robin Roberts attempted to pivot to a commercial, but Denzel, now standing partially from his seat, expressed his disappointment in the direction of the interview. He emphasized that he came to promote art, not defend his life choices against insinuations. The co-hosts urged calm, but the damage was irreversible. Denzel's body language screamed frustration, his fists clenched subtly. Viewers at home debated online, some praising Denzel's candor, others criticizing him for overreacting. Strahan tried to salvage with an apology for any misunderstanding, but Denzel waved it off, stating that respect meant listening without agenda. The clash highlighted broader tensions in media interviews, where celebrities often feel ambushed. As the segment dragged on, Denzel elaborated on his philosophy of integrity over fame, drawing parallels to his roles in films like Glory and Malcolm X, where truth prevailed against odds. Strahan nodded, but his follow-up question about political ambitions irked Denzel further, seeing it as another deflection. The studio lights felt hotter, the audience hushed in anticipation of what might come next. Finally, Denzel declared he'd had enough of the interrogation disguised as conversation, his voice booming with authority honed from years on stage and screen. This moment captured the essence of why Denzel was revered, not just for talent, but for unyielding principles. In a stunning turn, Denzel Washington rose fully from his chair, removing his microphone clip with deliberate motions, signaling his intent to end the interview prematurely. The studio fell into a shocked silence as Michael Strahan's eyes widened, realizing the gravity of the situation. "I'm done here," Denzel stated firmly, his voice echoing through the set, addressing not just Strahan but the entire production team. Strahan stammered in an attempt to de-escalate, extending a hand and saying, "Denzel, let's talk this out," but the actor shook his head, explaining that respect was non-negotiable and the line of questioning had crossed into disrespect. The audience murmured in disbelief, some applauding Denzel's stand, others whispering about the drama unfolding live. Robin Roberts and George Stephanopoulos jumped in, pleading for him to stay, emphasizing the show's admiration for his work. But Denzel, composed yet resolute, elaborated on why he was leaving. Interviews should elevate, not provoke for clicks. He recounted similar experiences in his career where media twisted words, vowing not to participate in such spectacles. Strahan, now standing as well, expressed regret if he offended, but Denzel countered that intent didn't excuse impact. The cameras captured every nuance of the tension in Denzel's jaw, Strahan's flustered expression as this became instant viral fodder. Crew members scrambled, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let it play out. Denzel turned to the audience, thanking them for their support over the years, which elicited cheers and standing ovations from some. He then addressed the viewers at home, urging them to seek truth beyond headlines. Strahan, trying to regain control, suggested a break to cool off, but Denzel politely declined, stating his time was valuable and he'd rather spend it productively. As he walked toward the exit, the co-hosts filled the air with awkward transitions, promising more after the break. Backstage whispers suggested this could tarnish GMA's reputation for friendly chats. Denzel's exit was methodical, not stormy, but powerful in its quiet dignity, reminiscent of his on-screen personas who command respect. Social media ignited with support for Denzel, memes mocking Strahan, and debates on interview etiquette. Analysts later pondered if this was a PR stunt. But those close knew Denzel's authenticity. The incident underscored power dynamics in celebrity journalism, where stars increasingly push back against invasive probing. As Denzel Washington disappeared behind the curtains, the Good Morning America set erupted into controlled chaos, with producers signaling for an immediate commercial break to regroup. Michael Strahan sat back down, visibly shaken, running a hand over his face as Robin Roberts patted his shoulder reassuringly. The audience, still buzzing, began chanting Denzel's name softly, a mix of admiration and surprise filling the air. Back on air after the ads, Strahan addressed the elephant in the room, apologizing to viewers for the abrupt end and expressing hope that Denzel would return someday. He reflected briefly on the passion both brought to the table, framing it as a learning moment. Roberts and Stephanopoulos chimed in, praising Denzel's contributions to film and society, steering the show toward other segments like weather and feel-good stories. Meanwhile, in the green room, Denzel reportedly gathered his team, calm but firm in his decision, later issuing a statement via his publicist emphasizing the need for respectful discourse in media. Social media platforms lit up like fireworks, with #Denzel walks off trending worldwide, clips of the clash amassing millions of views within hours. Celebrities weighed in, some like Oprah praising Denzel's integrity, others like Ellen calling for understanding on both sides. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, analyzing body language and speculating on underlying issues. Strahan faced backlash online, accused of being too aggressive, though his supporters defended his journalistic style. GMA's ratings spiked paradoxically, turning a mishap into must-watch TV. Denzel's fans rallied, sharing montages of his best moments, reinforcing his status as a Hollywood icon unafraid to speak truth. Critics debated if this hurt his image, but most agreed it enhanced his legend as principled. In interviews later, Strahan admitted to misjudging the tone, vowing to approach future guests with more sensitivity. The event sparked broader conversations about race, media, and celebrity autonomy, with panels on CNN and Fox dissecting every word. Denzel's film saw a surge in interest, proving controversy could boost box office. As the day unfolded, apologies were exchanged privately, but publicly, both men stood their ground, highlighting the raw humanity behind the glamour. In the aftermath of Denzel Washington's dramatic walk-off from Good Morning America, the entertainment world reverberated with discussions, analyses, and speculations that extended far beyond the studio walls. Media pundits on shows like The View and Entertainment Tonight dissected the clash, with some labeling it a necessary confrontation in an era of performative interviews, while others criticized Denzel for overreacting to standard probing. Michael Strahan, in a follow-up appearance on his own, reflected humbly, acknowledging that boundaries vary and committing to better guest experiences. Denzel's camp released a full statement, reiterating his respect for journalism but decrying sensationalism that undermines serious topics. Public reaction was polarized yet overwhelmingly supportive of Denzel, with petitions circulating to boycott GMA until reforms. Though most viewed it as a one-off, the incident inspired think pieces in outlets like the New York Times and Variety, exploring how black celebrities navigate predominantly white media spaces. Strahan's co-hosts defended him, noting his track record of positive interactions, but admitted the exchange got heated unexpectedly. Denzel's career, far from suffering, gained momentum. With renewed interest in his body of work and upcoming projects, fans organized online tributes, sharing how his films inspired them. From Philadelphia to American Gangster, Strahan, meanwhile, used the moment for growth, perhaps strengthening his role as a bridge between sports and entertainment. Months later, rumors of a reconciliation surfaced, with both men spotted at events, hinting at mutual respect beneath the surface. The event became a case study in communication courses, teaching about active listening and cultural sensitivity. Ultimately, it reminded everyone that even icons like Denzel are human, capable of drawing lines when pushed. As time passed, the clash faded into lore, a testament to the unpredictable nature of live TV, where scripted pleasantries can give way to real emotion. Denzel's legacy remained untarnished, if not elevated, proving that standing up for oneself resonates universally. Strahan continued thriving, perhaps wiser from the experience. In the end, the morning that started routinely ended as a pivotal moment, sparking change in how interviews are conducted, ensuring more authentic, respectful dialogues in the future.